How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Today we are doing a Q&A because I've been getting a lot of questions on Instagram and YouTube, and I thought I'd make a quick video to answer some of the most asked questions that I've been getting. So I put out a story on Instagram yesterday asking you guys what questions you had for me, and my word, I was blown away to see hundreds and hundreds of questions that I have spent a lot of today scrolling through and attempting to categorize and picking out the best ones and hopefully answering them to the best of my ability in the limited time that I have. So without further ado, this is the first question. Where do you live and where are you from? I live in Sydney, Australia, and I've been here for all my life apart from the first 6 months where I spent in India. Next question. What course did you end up studying at university? That's a really good question because it's not something I've addressed on this channel so far, but just to set things straight, when I left school and came to university, I enrolled in a course called a Bachelor of Medical Science. And I was very adamant on getting into medicine, and that was sort of the trajectory that my life was on. I still remember going into my headmaster's office during my final years at school, and he'd pull out this big book, and it was from the university's admission center, and we'd look through it and he'd say, pick a course that you think you'd be interested in. And there was engineering, there was law, there was medicine, there were all these typical degrees, and at that particular point in my life, I kind of just thought that's what the world's like. You just do a degree and you get a job. And I wasn't really interested in sitting down at a desk and just typing away all day, and I thought a lot of jobs involved doing that. I really enjoyed interacting with people, and I also liked science. And so my headmaster recommended that I do medicine because it involved interacting with people, and also it was pretty hard to get in. So I thought, oh, that'd be a good challenge, and I was pretty motivated to get into it. To be honest, the most productive I've ever been in my entire life was second semester of first year when I was making those physiology notes, which you guys have seen on my iPad. I'd wake up early in the morning and start working immediately, and I don't think I've reached a level of productivity like that ever since. And it's because I really wanted to get into medicine. However, there was this test, I think it was called the UMAT or the UCAT, that we had to do. And I did it quite a few times. And I remember doing it in my first year of university. And I didn't really do much preparation. And I think I got like a score of 50 or 60. And that was pretty depressing. I remember getting my results for the UMAT and opening them up and seeing that I got 50. And then lying in my bed all day, depressed, thinking that my life was over. And I think my parents had to tell me to get out of bed and get on with my life. What's really interesting was I did the UCAT or the UMAT a year later. And the second time around, I think I spent months preparing for it. Practice tests, studying with other people. And then the second time I did it, I did even worse. But the interesting thing was I actually didn't feel as bad about myself because in that period of time, I think I picked up videography, photography. I started doing more creative things with my iPad and learning. And I kind of began to realize that there was more to life than just my narrow-minded view of the world. And I ended up getting the opportunity to do an internship with one of my professors at university who gave me the opportunity to work alongside him. And he basically showed me that business wasn't just about showing up at a desk and typing away all day. Business was about solving problems and doing creative things. And it sort of showed me that, hey, this is something I might be interested in, which led to me changing my degree from a medical science degree to a double degree in business and science. And a lot of my medical science subjects carried over into the science half of my degree. I remember making that change, and a significant number of people, course advisors, and some teachers in fact, told me, that's a bad decision, make sure you complete your medical science degree, don't leave halfway through. But looking back, without a doubt, I think it was one of the best decisions I made. Next question. Are you still using GoodNotes 4 or have you switched to GoodNotes 5? Has the pen gotten better? Okay, honestly, yes, I actually have started using GoodNotes 5 a lot more, and that's simply because I need a functional file management system to store all my files. But I'll be really honest, like the most joy I feel when I use the iPad is when I write on the screen using GoodNotes 4. I still think it has the best pen mechanics. Do you prefer your laptop or Mac? Okay, I'm gonna make the assumption that the question is actually, do you prefer your iPad or Mac? Because my Mac is my laptop. I could make a whole video on this, but in short, I love using my iPad. My entire channel at one point was just about note-taking on the iPad. But if I had to pick one device to go to university with, it would have to be a laptop, because at the end of the day, most of my assignments are reports that are typed up. I had to use Excel, spreadsheets, things like that, using an external monitor. And currently as it stands, I think laptops do that a lot better than iPads. And I don't think you should compare an iPad to a laptop. I think an iPad allows you to do different things. And so I'd actually recommend getting a laptop or a Mac first. And then if you can afford it and save up for it, I think the iPad is a valuable addition later on. Why Apple and not Samsung? Are you trying to start a war? I mean, feel free to have a go at answering that if you'd like to in the comment section below. Apple v Samsung. The next question is, my handwriting on the iPad is awful. How would you recommend fixing that? Firstly, I would say you are not alone in that. When I first got my iPad, I found it very difficult making the transition from pen and paper and the friction that comes with that to writing with an Apple Pencil on a really smooth screen. And I was really intentional about using the first few months that I had with the iPad to get my handwriting as good as it could be, because I knew that if I could get that right, like, the potential was unlimited going forward. And so 3 really quick tips that I recommend. Firstly, I recommend using grid paper. I think it really allows you to guide your handwriting and space things out evenly. Secondly, I recommend zooming in and writing very large, and also writing very slowly. And as you begin to develop legible handwriting with properly shaped letters, then I recommend adding speed and writing a bit smaller. And so if you just keep doing that long enough, I think over time you can adjust to it. Oh, and by the way, there's this thing called the Paperlike Screen Protector. It's basically a matte screen protector that adds a bit of friction to your screen, which makes that transition a little easier. I don't use it personally because I'm used to the smooth screen of the iPad, but I have heaps of friends out there who use it and they genuinely think it makes a difference. Next question is, how do I create a good presentation? Oh wow, there is a lot I could say about this. I could make a whole video series on making a good presentation. Is that something you guys are interested in? If so, please let me know, and I reckon I could make some videos on that. Next question, why did you start your YouTube channel in the first place? Basically, back when I was in first year and I was making notes on the iPad, I was learning how to learn, I was experiencing what I think was a significant transformation in my approach to learning and being a student at university. You know, I'd go to class, I'd take notes, attend lectures, there'd be moments where I'd teach my friends, and people would walk by and they'd see me taking notes on the iPad and they'd be curious. And they'd come up to me and they'd be like, "Hey Samuel, what's that thing that you're taking notes on, and can you tell me a bit about it?" And I remember every single time someone did that to me, I was super excited and I gave them this 15-minute spiel about this tool, the iPad, the app that I used, and I basically gave them all the reasons from a science student's point of view of why I thought it was better than just handwriting notes on paper and typing up notes. And people would be super interested and they'd say goodbye, and what's really crazy was I would see these students 1 week later, and I kid you not, they would show up to class with an iPad that they had bought within that 1 week. And in that time, they would have started taking notes for themselves, and they'd come up to me and they'd be like, "Hey Samuel, I got an iPad, I'm starting to take notes, I see what you've been talking about. It actually does make a difference." And at that particular point, I was like, oh wow, there really is something here. It isn't just me, there is something about this tool and the aspect of your thinking that it unlocks that I thought I would love to share this with more people. And YouTube was honestly the pathway to get there. And I think the reason I was so adamant about YouTube as a platform was because all I did as a first year student when I was unmotivated or I didn't know how to learn was go to YouTube and watch other people learn. And I remember thinking, like, I spend so much time watching other people on YouTube give tips and tricks on how to learn and reflections on being a student, and I was like, you know, I actually think I have something here that's a little bit different that could help a couple people out there. And so that's basically what led to my first YouTube video, and as much as I knew there was something in it, I think I was still blown away when it received the attention and response that it did. Next question, did you do all the editing yourself? Yes. Where did you learn editing and what gear do you currently use? Just as a heads up, 6 months before I actually made my first YouTube video, I got into videography and cameras and things like that. And just to put things in context, in the summer holidays at the end of my first year of university, I literally spent 8 hours a day learning how to use a camera, take photos, edit. I take pictures of grass, flowers, my cat, anything I had the opportunity to film or photograph. I just used it as an opportunity to learn. And to be honest, all the tips and tricks you need to learn to make videos are out there. It's just about finding opportunities to put those into practice. So whether that's a university assignment, something you're making for fun, whether you go and volunteer to make a video for the cafe down the street, it's just about finding places where you can use that skill and learning as you go from video to video to video. Do you plan on giving up the degree and pursue making videos and photography? No, I do not plan on giving up my degree. I hope I end up graduating with a degree. But yes, I still do hope to pursue videography and photography. I actually do videography as a profession for businesses, etc. And most recently, I've actually been doing a lot of videography for Western Sydney University, something I hope to talk about in a future video. Person anywhere in the past or present that has greatly inspired you. In terms of filmmaking, Christopher Nolan. I got so many questions on motivation, by the way. I think this is the one question that just keeps coming up in my messages and particularly on Instagram. So questions like, what keeps you motivated? How do you deal with longer periods of burnout and being unmotivated? What do you do to get out of a slump? Where do you find the motivation to make videos? I think the first thing I'll say is motivation is something I struggle with myself. And if you want to see a more fleshed out take on what my views on motivation are, I've made 2 videos that I recommend you go and watch. One is called How I Stay Motivated, and the other one is called Find Your Purpose. And I think those 2 give you an insight into how I've been struggling with it for myself. But at a practical level, I'd say, firstly, make sure you have a practical goal in mind. So you might be having to memorize a list of anatomical features for a test on Monday as part of your medical degree. But if you know in the big picture, you want to become a doctor and you have to do your medical degree in order to get there, at least you have a goal. At least you have something you are working towards. And that means you voluntarily have signed up for the journey, for the degree to get there. And so that test isn't just some meaningless thing that's a waste of time. It's something that gets you to where you want to go. So I think it's really important that you're doing something you want to do and you have a goal that you'd actually feel satisfied if you achieved. Secondly, I'd say, and this is me talking to myself as well, it's good to ground our first world complaints in a bit of gratitude. A lot of the times, the things I'd complain about in my degree was, oh, I have to go and do this reading, or I have to go and do this research. But just realize if that's the sort of stuff you're complaining about, you're in a pretty good position. And I guess the challenge is, how can you make that reading or that thing that you're studying or that assignment that you're working on something you actually look forward to? And so one of the practical things I do when I was in university was I'd tell my friends, hey, I'd love to teach you this topic, or hey, I'd love to help you with this assignment. And the idea of helping other people for some reason would give me a very clear reason not to procrastinate. As someone who is a serial procrastinator, remembering that tomorrow I have to show up and help someone with their assignment would really get me to do my work and be in a position where I can actually help them. And I think finally, and I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you, if you're going to wait for motivation to get started, you will never get started and you will never achieve the things that you're setting out to achieve. I think my worst study habit or my worst work practice in the past has been waiting to the moment where I feel like it to start. Whether that be doing an assignment, working on a presentation, recording a YouTube video, because you will never feel like it. When you leave things up to your feelings, you will take the easy way out. And so I think a much better way to approach it is know why you're doing what you're doing, and then adopt a bit of discipline. And realize that know why you're doing what you're doing and adopt a bit of discipline. Set a deadline for a piece of work and maybe make someone else hold you accountable, and then don't negotiate with yourself. Just start. And you'll be so surprised at how many times those feelings of motivation actually arrive after you begin doing the thing that you're meant to be doing. And so just remember, motivation follows discipline. So I'd actually recommend focusing on being a disciplined person who shows up and does their work. That is advice that I need to honestly remind myself every single day because it is a struggle for me. Next question. What's your definition of success? That's a really good question. And I don't know if I have a good enough answer that does it justice, but I'll try. The reason I think it's such a good question is because I think so many of us avoid asking ourselves and others this question for most of our lives. And I think it's so easy to allow school or the workplace or the people around us or our culture to determine what success looks like for us. So at school, sometimes success might just be getting good grades. At the workplace, success might be being employee of the month who just does as they're told. Culture might tell us that success is about looking in a particular manner and being perceived in a particular manner. And I guess when you ask a question like that to yourself, it really depends on the context and the place that you find yourself in. But when I look at my work, I think no matter what I'm doing, if I'm making a YouTube video, making a presentation, if I'm writing a song, if I'm working somewhere, if I'm serving a cup of coffee to someone, at the end of the day, everything I do is done with the impact to change things, to impact someone else, to make a difference. And so when I make a video, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I want this video to inform people about this. I want the video to move people in this way. I want the video to change my audience. And when I put the video in front of people, if it does that, then that's what success is to me. But at the same time, if the video or the thing that I made doesn't achieve the thing that I set out for it to do, a lot of people would call that failure, but I still see that failure as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to look at the thing that I've created and to extract lessons that I can apply on a future thing that I'm making. And so I think my definition of success is interconnected with learning and growing. And I guess added to that is the idea that, if I can do work that doesn't compromise who I am or the things that I value, I see that as, successful too. But yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I have a feeling that my definition of success will probably change and evolve if you ask me a year from now, and I think that's okay. And I think as long as you're aiming at something and you have a definition, I think that allows for growth. Can you please sneak in the words One Direction when you film? One Direction. You're welcome. And last but not least, the final question, how old are you? Well, as of today, the 12th of April, I am 24. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
You make me wanna celebrate, 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 celebrate tonight. Like a picture that